Okay, hello. This is our fourth grade math class, and this is the final recording. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you, and we will get started. All right, so the topic of this week's lesson is operations with fractions, adding and subtracting related fractions, adding and subtracting mixed numbers, and multiplying a fraction by a whole number. And I am going to set my timer so that I can record these videos in little chunks, making it easier for me to upload them to Seesaw for you and send them to you. All right, so here we go. We're going to start with all of the operations with fractions, and that is going to include adding and subtracting related fractions. So here we go. I just want to remind you of our math strategies. And hang on a second, I have some funky.
Come and meet the hippest.
Okay, hello. That was interesting. Okay. All right, so what we want to do is I wanted to show you that drawing pictures is a really useful tool for adding and subtracting, for working with fractions. So, all right, here we go with adding fractions. Now, these are called related fractions because their denominators are not the same. So we might say, you know, adding fractions with like denominators or adding related fractions. And so this is how we add fractions with unlike denominators. I have 1/5 plus 9/10. Now we cannot just add fractions the way that we did when the denominators were the same. We need to take a look at the denominators and see how they are related. So I have the numbers 5 and 10 on the bottom. And I know that 5 times 2 is 10. So 10 is a multiple of 5. When I go to find common denominators, I'm really looking for common multiples between 5 and 10. And so I know that 10 is a multiple of 5 and 10 is a multiple of 10 because 10 times 1 is 10. So, but we can't just change the denominator over here to 10 without doing something to the numerator first. So what I always ask myself is, what did I do to 5 to get 10? And the answer is I multiplied it by 2 to get 10. And so whatever I do to the denominator, I have to do to the numerator. So 1 times 2 equals 10. Okay, and this works because, you know, 2 over 2 is equivalent of 1. And so if I were to multiply 1/5 times 1, I would still get 1/5. So if I multiply 1/5 times 2 over 2, then I get 2/10, which is what I have over here. And so now I can add 2 plus 9 is 11. And then I just copy the denominator over because in fractions, we don't add the denominators, we only add the numerators. Okay, so I get 11/10. And if you think about it in a drawing, let's say that I have, you know, 2/10 here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, right? There's tenths. And let's say I have 2/10 and I add 9/10 to that. So 2 plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm going to have to add another 10th there, right, to get 9. So I'm going to create another drawing of 10. And this is the easiest way that I know how to do it. I divide that by 2, and then I just divide this into 5 parts. Okay, and now I have 11 tenths, which is actually the same as 1 1/10. Do you see that in the drawing? So when we go ahead and change this improper fraction into a mixed number, it's really easy to see that I have 1 whole plus 1/10. Okay? All right, so the next one, 1/4 plus 1/2. We need to change this fraction, right? Because how are 4 and 2 related? Well, 2 times 2 equals 4. So I can change this denominator over here to be 4. And what did I do to 2 to get 4? I had to multiply it by 2. I always ask myself that question. And so whatever I do to the denominator, I do to the numerator. And so 1 times 2 is 2. And so now I'm going to add my numerators. 1 plus 2 is 3. And then I keep the denominator the same, 4. So my answer is 3/4. Let's do one more together, and then on the next slide are some for you to do individually. So 4/10 plus 1/3. Well, this one's kind of tricky because 10 is not a multiple of 3. So one thing that I can do is I can multiply my two denominators, and I can find a common denominator there. So 3 times 10 is 30. So now I'm going to change both fractions so that 30 is their denominator. Okay, so what do I do to 10 to get 30? Well, I multiply 10 times 3. So whatever I do to the denominator, I have to do to my numerator. And then, so that's 4 times 3, and that's what gave me 12. And then 3 times 10 gave me 30. And so 1 times 10 is 10. And so that's how I got the 10 over here. So then 12 plus 10 is 22. And so my answer is 22/30. Okay, so that's adding related fractions. And I'm going to take a look at my time over here. I've got 3 minutes so that I can keep this as a short enough video that I can convert it and upload it to Seesaw. So let's take a look. So this is the one that you're going to do on your own, and I've actually already converted the common denominators for you. I might add a slide before I move this over to give you an opportunity to add fractions on your own without the common denominators already done for you. All right, so subtracting fractions is exactly the same. So we're going to subtract the numerators, right? But we need to find those common denominators. So 10 is a multiple of 5. So 5 times 2 is 10. And so 2 times 2 is 4. And that's how we got 4/10 over here. And then we subtract 9 minus 4 equals 5. And then we just leave the denominator on the bottom. So 5/10. And then, so coming down here, 8/10 minus 1/2. Our common denominator between the two is 10, because 2 times 5 is equal to 10. And so 1 times 5 is 5. So 8/10 minus 5/10, 8 minus 5 is 3. And then 10, we just leave at the bottom. All right, one more, subtracting fractions. 6/10 minus 1/4. Well, 10 is not a multiple of 4. So what we're going to need to do is notice how I found 20 as the common denominator, because 10 times 2 equals 20, and 4 times 5 equals 20. So this is where it really helps us to have those multiplication facts memorized, because I can quickly think in my head, oh, both of these numbers have 20 in common. So then 6 times 2 is 12. And then 1 times 5 is 5. So in this case, since we multiplied the denominators by different numbers, we have to multiply those numerators by the same number we multiplied the denominators by. Because again, 2 over 2 is the same as 1. We can multiply any number by 1 and get the same answer. 5 over 5 is the same as 1, right? 5/5 is 1 whole. All right, so then 12 minus 5 is 7, and so our answer is 7/20. So I'm going to upload this video onto Seesaw so that you can see it, and I'm going to put this slideshow over on Seesaw as well, so that you can get a chance to work on these problems. And so the next slide is subtracting fractions, and I've already converted the denominators for you. So I'll make one more where the denominators haven't been converted so you can get a chance to find your own common denominators. All right, that's it for this video.